The air in northern Switzerland doesn't just feel cold. It feels sterile, like the inside of a grave, far beneath the jagged peaks of the Alps, inside a decommissioned Cold War bunker turned ultra-secure data center. A light started blinking red at 3:14 a.m. This wasn't a glitch. This was the sound of the world's most dangerous ghost waking up. A group of rogue digital forensic specialists, men and women who exist only in the dark corners of encrypted forums, had just cracked the iron vault. They weren't looking for Bitcoin or state secrets. They were hunting for the shadow server, a ghost in the machine that the DOJ swore was wiped clean in 2019. What they found wasn't just a folder. It was a digital monolith, 3.5 million unredacted pages. To put that in perspective, the official data dumps we've seen in the news are just the crumbs brushed off a king's table. This is the whole damn banquet. While the public was distracted by the theater of court hearings and carefully curated leaks, the real data was sitting in this Swiss vacuum, protected by encryption layers that would take a supercomputer a century to breathe on. The narrator's voice drops to a whisper as the first file on the screen flickers to life. It's not a legal document. It's a time-stamped communication log dated August 9th, 2019, just hours before the world was told Jeffrey Epstein took his own life in a high-security cell. The metadata shows a frantic exchange between a private server in New York and an untraceable IP address in Riyadh. The message was simple. The bird is in the cage, but the songs are recorded. Initiate the Swiss protocol. As the forensic team scrolled, the 3.5 million pages began to bleed out their true purpose. This wasn't a collection of evidence for a trial. It was a minute-by-minute, heartbeat-by-heartbeat ledger of a 30-year operation. We're talking about every flight of the Lolita Express, yes, but also the shadow flights, planes that took off from private strips in the middle of the night with their transponders turned off, carrying cargo that wasn't on any manifest. The files contain wire transfer records that make the Panama Papers look like a child's lemonade stand ledger. We see millions flowing from shell companies in the Virgin Islands into the private bank accounts of judges, police chiefs, and philanthropists who are currently lecturing us on morality on evening news segments. But the most chilling part of the Swiss discovery? The off-the-books visitor list for Little St. James. For 3 decades, while the world thought the island was a private getaway, it was actually a high-tech recording studio. The 3.5 million pages reveal that every room, every palm tree, and every temple on that island was rigged with military-grade fiber-optic surveillance. The guests thought they were the masters of the universe, indulging in their darkest desires in total secrecy. In reality, they were just actors in a film produced by the world's most meticulous blackmailer. The first page of the vault ends with a single, terrifying realization. 3.5 million pages isn't just a number. It's a death sentence for the global elite. The Iron Vault has been breached, and for the first time in history, the people who hold the leashes are the ones feeling the collar tighten. The silence of the Alps has been broken, and the scream is going to be heard across every continent. As the Swiss forensic team peeled back the encryption on the main directory, they expected to find a list of names. Instead, they found a mathematical nightmare. The 3.5 million pages aren't organized alphabetically or by date. They are sorted by a terrifying metric labeled leash value. In the world of the blackmail protocol, your name is irrelevant. What matters is how far your neck can be bent before it snaps. The files reveal a global registry of debt, where the world's most powerful figures, from Silicon Valley titans to European royalty, are ranked by their blackmail ability. A leash value of 10 meant you were a puppet on a short string. A 1 meant you were still a work in progress. As the scrolls continue, the narrative enters the Manhattan Mansion logs. These aren't just guest lists. They are transcriptions of audio recorded in a place the insiders called the Red Room. This wasn't just a place for debauchery. It was a boardroom for the damned. The 3.5 million pages detail secret recordings where a sitting prime minister is heard negotiating a national trade deal in exchange for the deletion of a 20-minute video. Another file shows a tech pioneer, the kind who wants to put chips in your brain, begging for a clean slate, while promising to bake backdoors into his software for Epstein's anonymous investors. Then comes the spicy truth that the mainstream media is too terrified to touch. Scattered throughout the 3.5 million pages are over 1,000 sheets written in a cryptic alphanumeric cipher. This isn't civilian-grade encryption. It's a specialized code used exclusively by high-ranking intelligence operatives from 3 different nations. This revelation flips the script. The island wasn't just a billionaire's playground. It was a joint intelligence laboratory, a neutral ground where spies from opposing sides met to trade human collateral. The file suggests that Epstein was never the boss. He was a chief data officer for a global intelligence syndicate. The island was a trap, the girls were the bait, and these 3.5 million pages are the trophies. The registry shows that the sale of national policies happened over cocktails and shadows. One transcript describes a negotiation where the fate of an entire subcontinent's energy grid was decided by a man whose only concern was that his leash value didn't hit a 10 by the end of the night. As the forensic experts dig deeper, they realize the registry includes names we haven't even heard of yet, the successors. But more on that later. Right now, the realization is sinking in. The world isn't run by votes or even by money. It's run by the 3.5 million pages of leverage sitting in that Swiss bunker. If you thought the horror was confined to a Caribbean island or a Manhattan townhouse, you haven't looked at the digital breadcrumbs buried in the middle of this 3.5 million page haystack. The forensic team in Switzerland discovered a folder titled The Perimeter, and it proves that the blackmail protocol wasn't location. It was an atmosphere. The files reveal that Epstein's surveillance didn't end when his guests boarded their private jets. The 3.5 million pages contain installation logs for military-grade listening devices placed in private homes, yachts, and, most disturbingly, the secure boardrooms of his most powerful associates. This wasn't just a man with a camera. This was a man who had turned the private lives of the global elite into a 24/7 reality show for his shadow masters. As the team decrypted the surveillance grid data, they found transcriptions of conversations held inside the most fortified rooms on the planet. We're talking about private dialogues from inside the World Economic Forum's closed-door sessions and whisperings in the hallways of the IMF. These aren't just rumors. The 3.5 million pages provide the exact serial numbers of the bugs hidden in the furniture of a certain royal palace and the code names of the domestic staff, who are actually deep-covered data harvesters. The spicy revelation here? The global economy hasn't been running on supply and demand for decades. It's been running on the blackmail protocol. The files show that major market shifts, like the sudden crash of a certain currency or the unexpected merger of 2 tech giants, were often preceded by a data transfer from Epstein servers. The island was merely the central hub, the server room where the raw data was collected, but the grid reached everywhere. The 3.5 million pages describe a system where world leaders weren't making choices based on the needs of their citizens. They were making choices based on the listening logs held over their heads. Imagine a world where every law passed and every war declared was just a payment on a blackmail debt. The horror realized by the Swiss team was that these 3.5 million pages are essentially a script of the last 30 years of human history. The truth is that the world we see on the news is a puppet theater, and the strings are made of the fiber optic cables found in the grid. As the forensic experts stared at the grid maps, they saw red dots flickering across every major capital city. The 3.5 million pages aren't just a record of the past. They are a map of a world that is still currently wired for sound. The question isn't who was being watched, it's who wasn't. January 30th, 2026, the day the digital sky fell. While the world was waking up to news of the DOJ's final release of 3.5 million pages, a more dangerous game was being played in the shadows. The question everyone is asking is, why now, after decades of silence? Why did the gears of the legal system suddenly grind into motion? The forensic team in Switzerland found the answer buried in a metadata header on page 2,800,451. The leak wasn't a victory for transparency. It was a controlled disclosure. Think about it. The files released contain enough evidence to sink world leaders. The resignation of Slovakian officials and the fall of UK heavyweights like Peter Mandelson are just the beginning. But the spicy truth is that this massive data dump is actually a kill switch. A rival faction of the global elite, tired of the old guard's dominance, triggered the Epstein Files Transparency Act as a way to crash the current political system. It's a scorched earth policy. If they can't run the world, no one will. The story follows a secret meeting in early 2026 between a high-level whistleblower and a team of independent journalists. The whistleblower, appearing only as a silhouette, revealed that the 3.5 million pages are merely the first tranche. There are another 2.5 million pages, the ones that contain the unredacted names of the untouchables, that are being held back as a final ransom. The narrator describes the panic inside the DOJ as cleanup crews are deployed globally. These aren't janitors. They're elite hackers working to scrub the shadow server copies from the deep web. They mistakenly leak the identities of survivors to distract the public, creating a moral outcry to justify shutting down the servers entirely. It's the ultimate distraction. Get the world arguing about privacy so they don't notice the names of the puppet masters disappearing in real time. The 2026 leak is designed to create a trust vacuum. By exposing just enough of the Western legal system's rot, the architect of this leak wanted the public to demand a new digital global order, one where every transaction and every interaction is tracked on a clean ledger. The warning is clear. The truth found in these pages is being used as a weapon to destroy the old world and install something much more absolute. As the narrator watches the kill switch countdown, they realize that the 3.5 million pages aren't the end of the story. They're the demolition charges for the foundation of society itself. The screen flickers one last time in the Swiss bunker. The 3.5 million pages have been scanned, but as the final lines of code scroll past, the forensic team realizes the most terrifying truth of all. This isn't a history book. It's a blueprint. While the world is hyper-focused on the names of the past, the princes, the presidents, and the fallen moguls, the system itself has already evolved. The files contain a subdirectory titled Project Mirror. It reveals that even as the walls were closing in on the physical island in 2019, the operation was being migrated into the metaverse. The 3.5 million pages detail the birth of a digital island, a virtual sanctuary where the elite no longer have to worry about flight logs or physical DNA. In this digital version of Little St. James, the surveillance is absolute, powered by AI that can predict a target's desires before they even feel them. The blackmail protocol hasn't died, it's just become invisible. The narrator delivers the final blow. The successor isn't a person but an algorithm. The new ledger is being written in real time, fueled by the very data we willingly give up every day. While we were busy dissecting the 3.5 million pages of the past, the infinite ledger of the future was being built around us. The truth we just uncovered was intentionally left behind, a shiny object to keep us looking back while the architects of the next century move into the shadows of cloud. As the Swiss server room begins to self-destruct, the narrator's final warning echoes. Do not mistake this leak for a victory. The release of 3.5 million pages was a distraction, a control burn to clear the forest for a new, more efficient crop of control. The real secrets? They weren't in the pages that were leaked. They are in the pages that were never written down. The ones that exist only in the silent code of the successor's shadow. The screen goes black. The vault is empty. But the infinite ledger is just getting started.